Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon, late afternoon, everyone. I'm not so sure whether I should wait for Dr. Desi or should I start now. I'm not so sure. Is Dr. Desi here? Hello, Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Noain. I see Dr. Dimas is also here. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Dimas.
Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam, good to see you.
Yeah, I just finished the annual general meeting with the Dean, Prof. Just finished.
Oh, okay, no worries. I was just
Yeah.
asking whether I should start or should I wait for Dr. Desi to come in.
Okay, actually, Dr. Desi has joined, but still settle some things.
Okay, or should I wait?
Okay. So,
Okay.
Prof, by the way, thank you very much, Prof, for your attending the last session of public lectures on risk management, by the way.
No, I should be thanking all of you, the university, for the opportunity. We are all in the eyes of Allah. We're just sharing the knowledge, and inshallah
Yeah.
we hope to benefit the ummah. Ameen.
Inshallah, Prof. So here, Prof, by the way, the participants coming from different countries. We have
Nice.
a participant from your university, from Gambia. Also, we have from University Terengganu, IIUM, UUM, UMT, yeah, and also
Nice,
from
very good program. I'm impressed.
Yeah. So but here the one that joined because of they have different time of with
I
others,
see.
but yours has been recorded, inshallah, has been recorded in your YouTube channels. So
Oh, okay.
everybody who miss yours will be then join after this through our YouTube channels.
Okay, great.
Dr. Desi, are you with us, Dr. Desi? Can we start now?
Tes. Assalamualaikum, tes.
Yes, welcome salam. Dr. Desi, you can just start please.
Yes.
Please, Bu Desi.
Yes. Okay. Okay, Dr. Dimas. Okay, can we start? Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Pak Dimas. Can we start or?
Yes, please. Yes, please,
Okay.
Doctor. Dr.
Okay.
Rosylin has joined.
Okay. I'm sorry. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, Professor Rosylin, Pak Dimas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, which is about risk management for Islamic and conventional banks. This is the last session in the series of public lecture online summer school, the third international training for young Islamic economic leaders 2020, organized by Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. Okay, I can see there are a lot of you joining today, participants. Thank you very much. So it is very exciting, and I can see you come from all over the world. Thank you very much. So welcome everybody. My name is Desi Rahmawati, and I'm a lecturer in Economics Study Program in Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. And with me today is Professor Dr. Rosylin Muhammad Yusof from University Utara Malaysia. And before we start the discussion today, let me introduce the speaker today. She is Professor Rosylin Muhammad Yusof, is Professor of Islamic Finance and Director of Sharia Governance and Islamic Finance, College of Business, University Utara Malaysia. She supervised PhD and master students. Professor Rosylin has numerous experience related to finance education and research. She is also a chief editor of the International Journal of Islamic Business and had published a lot of articles in both locally and internationally indexed journals. And she is a researcher as well. She is received both domestic and international research grants. Also received various awards for excellence in teaching and research. Okay, well, we are delivering this webinar with the title Risk Management for Islamic and Conventional Banks, an Introduction. So before we start, we are here are a few information for you about the time management. We will have 45 minutes lecture from Professor Dr. Rosylin, followed by another 45 minutes, maybe for discussion session. And then we invite the participants to ask questions related to our topic today. And second, we recommend you to use your headphones to get better quality audio and just to hear better as well. Try not to have anything working in the background for smoother live stream. Okay, so let's get we start. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Rosylin Muhammad Yusof. Okay, Professor, the time is yours.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dr. Desi, thank you very much for a very generous introduction. All right, at the end of the day, I'm just a grandmother with 4 chuchus. So, you know, so it's nothing much. So, okay, it's such a pleasure, I would say, you know, a privilege to be here with all of you. You know, it's also my first experience, you know, having this session. So of course, the COVID-19 has brought us a lot of hikmah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen. Can we start the session now, everyone? Dia, where are you? Can we start the session? Charisma, February, Hawari, Irma, can we start the session now? Don't fall asleep. You've got no pictures here.
Yes.
Nur Ain, I know you've been answering my questions, right? You've been responding. Can we start? Hello.
Yes, Prof.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Great. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, okay? See, I've captured your pictures.
Yes.
I'm just going to start. All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The topic of my presentation is credit risk in Islamic financial institution. I am going to start my lecture, Dr. Dasi, with a scenario. Okay, so we have a case where each and every one of you is an officer, all right, credit officer in bank muamalat. Okay, so we have scenario one. Irwan seeks financing from bank muamalat to help him pay his workers during the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. So this is a very usual, I think, a normal situation where the employers may not, the employers are not able to pay the workers, because of the MCO, and of course the business are affected. And we also have another scenario where Aisha seeks financing from Bank Muamalat to help her expand her Muslimah fashion business. Now we have two scenarios. So now I'm going to ask you, have you all downloaded the poll everywhere? I want to ask you, if you are the credit officer, remember you are a credit officer, you are also responsible to the bank. And at the same time, you must make sure that you are being fair to the bank customer. How do you actually decide on who do you want to give the financing to? All right, so I'm going to ask you to do this. All right, you can use your handphone. I've already forwarded the link to Dr. Dimas. You can use your handphone, or you can actually go to poll F and .com, and I want to see your answers. Can you do that? I'm going to stop sharing for a while. I'm going to go back to the other view. Can you see my poll everywhere? Can you see my poll everywhere? Can you see?
Not
No,
yet.
Not
Prof.
yet. Not
Prof.
already.
No, Prof.
You have?
Not already.
Not yet, Prof.
Okay, I'll wait. I want to see this. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet, Prof.
Not yet, Prof.
Can you see my screen? Who do you want to give the financing to? I see some responded already. Bank, what else? Who else you want to give the response? Who else?
Maybe.
Can you see this?
No, not yet.
Not yet, Prof.
Not yet. Maybe Mr. Firmansyah can help us.
It's just
Pak Dimas.
you just download. You just download this. Let me just show you.
You have not uploaded your screen, Prof, in the Zoom.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
let me just see this.
Please just click the share, Prof, share button.
Hold on.
Share button and then direct to your targeted file.
How come? Okay.
Okay, Prof, you can try again, Prof.
Okay. Where is my okay? Can you see now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Can you show your responses? So far, only one. I want to see who do you want to give the financing to, Aisha or Irwan?
Prof, can you back to the slides?
Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on. Let me just. Did you get this?
Yes.
Okay. Just go to polf.com. Then I can know your answers. All right, then we can start. Irma, did you get it? Okay, once you're here.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So you can go to test. You can go to test. You can go here. Then you just answer, you just enter your response. Who do you want? I just want to see how many said Aisha, how many said Irwan. Can you all do that? Okay. Yes, Irwan. Who else? Irwan. Scenario 1. What else? I want to ask you. You want to give to Irwan or you want to give to Aisha based on what you think he or she is going to be able to pay? Remember, you are, you're a bank officer, credit officer. You are also acting on the part of the bank, on behalf of the bank. Okay, next. Who else? So far, only Irwan. Aisha doesn't get the chance.
Okay. The others.
The others, come on.
The others.
Okay.
Can we start?
Yeah.
Give the response.
Yeah.
This
then we can then we can actually start understanding why. Okay, did you try?
This is the great question. I think for me, I think my choice is for Mr. Irwan because because he have any workers and COVID-19 and that very need to help how to the family can survive to facing that. I think that's the choice.
Yes, you have a choice. So at the end of the day, once I've given the lectures, see all of you whether you want to change your decision.
Yes.
So the lecture I'm going to present is related and help you make decision whether you want to give to Irwan or you want to give to Aisha.
Aisha, yes.
So, yeah, if I just want to see how many voted for Aisha and how many voted for Irwan. By the end of the session, we'll see whether you will change your decision. All right. So this is what the session is all about. So anyone else responded? No? You have problem with with the just Irwan and somebody responded entrepreneurs. Both are entrepreneurs. Aisha or Irwan. So I am entering on behalf of Dr. Desi. I will put Irwan here and I submit.
Yes.
All right. So Irwan. So it seems that Irwan, the bigger the screen, Irwan is getting bigger and Aisha is very small. So meaning that not many voted for Aisha and only more people voted for Irwan, right? So this is how we capture the response or the responses of the participants. And you can see that, many of you voted for Irwan and not many people voted for Aisha. And we will see afterwards at the end of the lecture whether this will change. All right, so we remember this. All right, and then if any one of you can take picture, we can take this picture, and then later we will compare. We will compare, the answers towards the end once we make the decision by, towards the end of the lecture. So my lecture, brothers and sisters, all right, my lecture will be focusing on how do we make this decision and what are the things that are needed. Yeah, let me just go through this. All right. So again, all right, once we make the decision, all right, we want to know what type of financing should the bank offer to Aisha and Irwan. Should we go for MURABAHA? Should we go for, MUSYARAKAH? Should we go for MUDHARABAH? So this question, I'm not asking you to answer yet. I would expect you to answer this question by the end of the session. So brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, you have 2 questions to answer. One is which or who do you want to give the financing to, Aisha or Irwan? All right, and number two, what type of financing? So the lecture that I'm going to present today will help you to decide, right, to whom you actually want to give the financing to and what type of financing. So my lecture, all right, the content of my lecture is, what is credit risk? What are the credit risk losses? What are the common credit risks, the specific credit risk, the guiding principles for credit exposure and managing credit risk. So we need to, at the end of the day, besides having to make the decision on the two questions, you'll be able to define what is credit risk, and you'll be able to tell me, what are the components of credit risk faced by Islamic banks, and how do Islamic banks mitigate this credit risk? And of course, at the end of the day, you need to critically discuss the role of Islamic banks. Yeah. So banks, as we all know, face a lot of various types of risks. So as you can see, Indonesia in
Prof, sorry, Prof.
Yeah.
Could you please remove first the earlier slide, Prof? We cannot see your slide.
Oh, really? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, the screen that shows only the last one, the pool everywhere. So you have
okay.
not
So
pull
I will
back.
stop again.
Yes,
again,
right.
and then share again. Okay, all right. Sorry, no wonder everybody is quiet. Okay. Can you see now?
Yes.
Yes, Prof.
So basically, these are the contents of today's lecture. All right, and then why do we need to understand the types of risk faced by Islamic financial institutions? Look at Indonesia, right? In 2000, and I think this is Indonesia in 2015, only 25% of the market share. And over the years, in 5 years, look at it's 50 USD in billion, 50 billion USD. How, Indonesia, for example, has become bigger in terms of providing Islamic banking services. So it is very important for us to understand, what is credit risk and what are the components. So when we talk about risk, all right, we have what we call the financial risk. So financial risks, of course, are related to all the financial part, and we also have the non-financial risk, and we also have the Islamic bank specific risk. Today, my lecture will just be focusing on credit risk because we want to understand what is credit risk. As a credit officer, as a bank, we want to understand who should we give the financing to, and what are the principles governing our decision. Yeah, because we have to be fair both to the customer as well as the bank. If you are an officer, you are representing the bank. At the same time, you do not want to be unfair or doing injustice to the customer. So you can read about this. All these are examples of risk. All right, I just want to focus on credit risk. So credit risk in banking is the probability of a borrower defaulting his loan commitments. We have Irwan and we have Aisha. What is the probability of Irwan defaulting his loan commitments, not being able to pay back his loan to the bank? And what is the probability of Aisha not being able to pay back her loan commitments to the bank? So if you ask me again, or to ask you what is credit risk is simply the probability of you not being able to pay back to the bank if you borrow money from the bank. So if you look at the case of Irwan and Aisha, who do you think will be in a better position to pay back the loans, right? So this is what we want to understand, in this lecture. So again, when we talk about credit risk, it is the potential that a bank borrower or counterparty will fail to meet its obligations in accordance with agreed terms. Again, in the case of Irwan and Aisha, Irwan is in a difficult financing stage, and Aisha is expanding her business. all right, who would be in a better position to pay back the banks? So this is what credit risk is all about. Later, we can talk about whether it is maqasid, not maqasid, whether, banks are doing, are operating inconsistent with maqasid, or is it just profit motivation? So we are going to answer that afterwards. But at the end of the day, but before that, we need to understand what is credit risk. So banks need to manage the credit risk, because if the bank cannot manage the credit risk, just give the loans to whoever he or she, the officer, wishes to, and the borrower is not able to pay back the bank, the profits of the bank will be affected and banks will be making losses. Not only the borrower will go to bankruptcy, the bank also will go to bankruptcy if the credit officer do not assess carefully the credit risk of the borrower. So should we be lending to a bankrupt, or should we be lending to someone with good credit standing? All right. Okay, so we can argue again later, you kesian or you feel pity to Irwan, this is COVID-19, right? And then he's not being able to pay back his loan, his workers, and then you want to give to Aisha. So those are the things that you need to consider. I'm not asking you make the decision right now, but I'm asking you to just think. As we are going through these slides, we need to understand, what is credit risk and how it affects people like Irwan and Aisha. Any questions so far?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Any question?
No?
So far, I think so far it's good. No question.
All right.
Or everybody? Yes. Okay, continue.
Okay.
Irma?
Okay.
Not yet, Prof.
You understand?
Yes, I do.
You do? You understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, okay. Now, okay, let me go further. Now, when we talk about credit risk, what are the causes of credit risk? If it is associated with the banks, all right, that is what we call the internal factors. But if it is associated with the environmental factors or market factors, we call that external factors. So when we talk about credit risk, it's not just about the bank, it's not just about the borrower, but it is also about the factors that is associated with the banks and the market, the environment. So COVID-19 falls under which one? Internal factor or external factor?
External.
Yes,
External.
Yes,
External
the
factors.
bank cannot do anything about it because COVID-19 is beyond, the capacity of the bank to regulate, to do anything about it, and it's beyond everyone's capability to mitigate the risk. So we talk about environmental factor, and we talk about market factor, and this is in fact the external factors. Yeah. Now, why is it so important for us to understand credit risk? Because if we cannot mitigate credit risk, the bank will be at losses. If the bank is experiencing losses, the depositors do not want to come in to deposit money to the bank, or the bank is not able to pay back the dividend or the rate of return to the depositors. So if the bank cannot carefully assess the credit risk, there'll be a failure for the banks to generate profit. So we thought we want to give to Irwan and Aisha, and we thought, okay, why not we give both of them, kesian, pity, one wants to expand business, the other one wants to, pay the workers. But we must also understand at the back of our minds that, we also need to make sure that there is profitability on the part of the bank. Yeah. Now, when we understand credit risk, so what is credit risk? In a perfect scenario, okay, banks provide financing to the customer. Customer pays back to the bank, all right? And in this case, when customer pays back to the bank, everybody will be happy. depositors will be happy, banks will be happy, and and of course customer will benefit. Aisha in Irwan can pay back the can pay the workers. Aisha can expand the business. Everybody is well and good. But what if the customer fails to honor the obligation and and they do not pay back the loans? So in order for us to understand this, we also know that there is a scenario where the customers are not able to pay back the loans, because if the customers are not the customers or the borrowers cannot pay back the loans after 3 months, it is called non-performing loans. If it is non-performing loans, in the end, it will lead to bankruptcy for the customer and or the borrower, and also the banks will also not be able to generate profits. So when we talk about the various types of risk, I am focusing on this credit risk, as you can see. So the credit risk is related to the financing, all right? So the other parts of the risk, all right, we can see that, we have solvency risk, market risk, the rate of return risk, non-compliant Sharia risk, liquidity risk, and we're just focusing on credit risk. Now, again, so even though we're focusing on financing, we also have what we call the credit risk related to Mudharabah and non-Mudharabah or Musyarakah. The balance sheet structure of Islamic banks, as you can see, we have the assets, we have the liabilities, all right? So as you can see, if the borrower does not pay back to the bank, it will definitely affect this much deposit from customers and institutions, and it will also, it will also be affecting the total assets and total liabilities and equities. We will go into the calculation afterwards, but this is the bigger. This is just the general picture of the balance sheet structure of Islamic banks. So for Mudharabah and Musyarakah, as you can see, you enter a business with the bank, jual tudung or you're selling tudung or hijab, yeah? And then, what if the profit, what if there's no profit? So how do you make sure that whoever borrows money from the bank under Mudharabah or Musyarakah can generate profit? If you're not able to assess the credit risk, that means you are not doing your job enough, because at the end of the day, the customer will default and it will also lead to non-profitability of the bank. So credit risk is when profit payments are delayed or not paid at all. Credit risks are very high because the project is long-term, and secondly, there is no collateral. So in the case of Mudharabah and Musyarakah, Mudharabah especially, do you all understand Mudharabah, every one of you?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, all right. So in the case of Mudharabah, for example, in the case of Aisha, Aisha enters a Mudharabah contract with the bank. Bank is the Rabbul Mal and Aisha is the Mudharib. So what if Aisha, Aisha's business is not doing well? Because at the end of the day, if Aisha's business is not doing well, the bank, the Rabbul Mal will be affected, because the Rabbul Mal, it is profit and loss sharing, or it is just, loss. The loss is going to be borne by the bank in the case of Mudharabah. Therefore, it will definitely affect the profitability of the bank. So if you have chosen Musyarakah or Mudharabah for Aisha or Irwan, you need to be very clear. You need to check one by one whether or not Aisha and Irwan can pay back to the bank, and what are the credit risks. Okay, so it is very, very important. You as a bank officer, you need to understand what are the credit risks associated with Musyarakah and Mudharabah. Any questions so far?
Okay.
Okay.
Any question, guys?
Clear.
We go into detail when we go to each type of financing, because this will then help you to decide whether what type of financing you want to give to Irwan or to Aisha.
Sure. Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now, just remember, we just now I showed you in the earlier slides, we have, an Islamic bank face so many risks. And one of the risks is credit risk. And credit risk in Islamic banks are also associated with mudharabah, musyarakah, murabaha, ijarah, salam, and istisna. It's not easy for the bank to just assess someone's credit. If it is musyarakah, what are the credit risks associated with musyarakah? If it's mudharabah, istisna, salam, and ijarah, each type of financing will have its own credit risk associated with each type of financing. Sometimes, if we think it's so easy for us to go and ask the bank for financing. If the bank doesn't give us financing, we get very angry. Why lah? The bank is not good. The bank doesn't give me financing. But the bank has to do a lot of assessment before they can actually give you the financing. Yeah. So okay, now, credit risk in Islamic banks. If it is a mudharabah, we all know a mudharabah contract is a contract between the mudharib, right, and the rabul mal, relationship between the bank and the mudharib. So if the entrepreneur is Irwan or Aisha, the financier or the rabul mal is the bank. So what if, if you go under mudharabah contract, what if the hijab, the supplier of hijab doesn't reach Aisha, so Aisha cannot sell her hijab because she has boutique, Muslimah boutique. So or the Muslimah clothing or the Muslimah clothes. So because of the problem with the supplier, Aisha cannot pay back to the bank, right? And therefore Aisha has defaulted payment. Once the good is delivered, the credit risk is then transferred to the customer. So even if, if the good is delivered, is the supplier delivered the hijab to Aisha? Yes, now it is the bank is the bank is happy because now it is up to Aisha, and Aisha should be able to pay back to the bank. So, it's very important for the bank to also assess if this business, is it difficult for the supplier to send, the goods to the entrepreneur. So all this need to be taken into account. It's not just, seeing one person and giving an assessment of credit and then just give the loan. So a lot of things that need to be understood, that need to be looked at. All right. So even in the case of musyarakah, remember, what is musyarakah? Musyarakah is banks and the customer are sharing profits. So how do you know that, Irwan is not making profit? Or how do you know Irwan is making profit but not disclosing that he is making a lot of profit, but he doesn't want to tell the bank because he doesn't want to share the profits with the bank? How do you know that? So you need to assess the risk. So this is a risk, a credit risk associated with musyarakah. So in the event where, if the bank has actually invested into the business, into Irwan's business, for example, and now Irwan's business is not, is experiencing losses and they have to liquidate all the assets. So if they liquidate the assets, also the bank is also experiencing losses. So of course the bank doesn't want to do this. So in order for the bank to make sure or to give financing to Irwan, the bank must make sure that the business is profitable and and of course and then assessing whether or not Irwan can pay back. And because just imagine, if you are the bank, do you want to share a profit with someone you're not sure of bringing profit to you? Or you prefer to just give money to Irwan, let him do his own business, and then and then pay you back. In terms of you can go under murabah contract or whatever. So you need to really look into what are the potential credit risks associated with musyarakah. I will ask these questions afterwards. Yeah. Now, if it is murabahah, okay, the buyer provides necessary information on purchasing requirements and bank purchase the product. So if it is under murabahah, you want to buy a house, you ask the bank to buy I want that house, all right, in Jakarta. So bank will buy the house and then sell it to you. So the credit risk comes when the customer cannot pay back the bank because the bank sells the house to you at a profit rate and you will have to pay to the bank every month. There are certain months, especially in the era of COVID, if you do not get moratorium, you will have to pay back to the bank. If you cannot pay back to the bank, right, it is regarded as non-performing loan. So if it is regarded as non-performing loan, it will definitely affect the profitability of the bank. So all this, if you are the bank, if you're a credit officer, you need to also be aware of all these credit risks associated with murabahah. Now, again, what if the price of the house has gone down? All right, or what if the price of the house has gone up? So all this will need to be taken into consideration in order for you to give financing or the type of financing to Irwan or to Aisha. If it is ijarah, okay, sometimes ijarah is your renting. If you're not able to pay back the rental because you lost your job, that is also a credit risk on the part of the bank. So sometimes, during, say for example, economic growth, where normally landlords normally rental is increased. So if rental is increased, if you're able to pay back, well and good, your credit risk is very low. But if you cannot pay back to the bank because of high rental, right, that is also regarded as a risk which is associated with credit risk. So again, we need to understand further what are the risks associated with ijarah. So as you can see, all right, credit risk in Islamic banks is not just credit risk not being able to pay back to the bank, but it's also associated with each type of financing. In a salam contract, are you all familiar with salam contract?
Yes.
Okay. In a salam contract, sometimes you are not able to deliver the product, right? So for example, you promise the bank that you will be delivering a certain agricultural product, but you are not able to deliver to the bank as a result of bad weather. And and of course there will be the implication will be price fluctuation. Sometimes you bought it at you sell it at a lower price, but then you got to know the price is higher or the price is lower. So that is also a credit risk which is associated with salam. Now again, same thing with istisna. Banks fail to deliver products on the stipulated time due to late delivery from the manufacturer. So istisna, you have a contractor, you have an arrangement with the manufacturer, and the manufacturer deliver the product very late. So, and then as a result, banks may need to purchase from an alternative source. So if the bank sells this product in installment to the buyer, the buyer may default in subsequent period, right? So again, as you can see, we always look at credit risk. We look into each type of financing and we need to understand what are the types of financing that are associated with credit risk. Then only we can assess the credit risk better. Now, we have understood what is credit risk, and we have understood the implication or the impact of credit risk, right? And we also need to understand, what are the credit risks associated with each type of financing. Now, banker, you would like to know now, how do I mitigate this credit risk? How do I manage this credit risk? All right. So the IFSB, all right, as you can see, they have a guiding principle. So they're suggesting that banks should have due diligence review among potential counterparties prior to deciding an appropriate Islamic financing instrument. So it is very important. IFSB is suggesting that Islamic Financial Services Board is suggesting that all banks, before you give financing to each customer, you need to do the due diligence. What is meant by due diligence? You need to understand, what are the risks associated with each type of financing. Should you give to Irwan? So Irwan is doing what business? Is it based on MUDHARABAH? Is it based on MUSYARAKAH? So what if the supplier is not able to pay back, or to deliver? And in the end, Irwan is not able to pay back to the bank. So all this must be checked, and we call this due diligence review. So it is very important that banks, you as a credit officer, should also help the bank to do this due diligence review. And we have also various types of methodologies to do this. All right, and we also need to understand the fact that if you are a credit officer in an Islamic financial institution, you must make sure that the financing is a Sharia compliant, and the risk is also a Sharia compliant credit risk mitigating technique. So you must make sure that you mitigate the risk. Whatever you do as a measure to mitigate the risk, it has to be Sharia compliant. You cannot just do injustice. You say, no, I'm not giving you the loan because you cannot bring profit to my bank. And okay, I'm not giving you the loan at all because I know that is a probability of you not being able to pay back. So we need to understand what are the justifications. We need to do the due diligence. You need to check. That's why it takes quite, if your case is not clear cut, the bank will say, okay, I'll get back to you in a week's time, or I'll get back to you in 3 days' time, because they need to do this due diligence. So, Islamic financial institutions should have a system to monitor the condition of individual credit. So first they do a background check, whether you have any loans outstanding, whether you have non-performing loans with other banks. All right, and then what if, is this your first time? Is this Irwan's first time not being able to pay back the employees due to COVID-19, or is it been, Irwan has always been like that, not being able to pay back the employees. So you need to really or clearly assess the situation and clearly assess the credit risk. Okay. And once you given money to Irwan or to Aisha, you need to monitor, right, whether they are able to pay back to the bank. So it's a whole process of assessing credit risk, and therefore IFSB is coming up with guiding principles for credit exposure. They ask you to do the due diligence. They ask the banks to make sure that the banks check properly, all right, do the background check and making sure that, the customer or the borrower can pay back to the bank. In some parts of the world, all right, you can just, bankers can go to the website, all right, to and check, give the, the passport number or or the IC number for the bank to check the credit capability of the individual customer. In Malaysia we have secrets, all right, for the bank negara to give you an assessment of your credit capability. And in some parts of the world, they call it credit bureau, and of course we also have what we call the CTOS, which is a private company which you can go to get information on your credit assessment. So why is it important for us to manage credit risk? Because if you don't manage credit risk properly, as I've mentioned to you earlier, it will lead to losses. So if it leads to losses, banks are not being able to survive or not being able to sustain. If you are not able to sustain, Islamic banks cannot prosper and they cannot grow. So for us, it is just a credit risk, one type of credit risk, but it has a bigger implications. Yeah. So, and of course, to protect the image and reputation of the financial institution. I'm not sure whether you've heard of the case of, Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad. I think it was in 2005 where Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad has experienced, significant or huge amount of losses. So, and of course, in a way, it impacted the industry and it also impacted the reputation. And of course, at the end of the day, we also, the government or the Bank Negara would also like to make sure that to prove that Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, being the first Islamic bank in Malaysia, is sustainable, and therefore, in order to protect the reputation, the government is coming in to also help Bank Islam to be able to sustain. So if you're interested, I can also share with you a case study which is conducted by ASEAN Institute of Finance, a very interesting case of Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad. So just imagine if banks are not able to manage credit risk. Do you want to go to Bank Muamalat? If Bank Muamalat, is not able to manage the risk, you go to other banks, right? Nurul Nabila?
Yes.
So it's very important, right? You want to make sure that when you put money in the bank, you want to make sure that the bank is sustainable, the bank can generate profits, right? So it is very important for the bank to manage credit risk so that it will also increase customers' confidence. And of course, you would prefer then, if you have a choice, whether you want to go for Islamic banks or you want to go for conventional banks, all right? So you want to make sure that the bank is sustainable, right? You want to be sure that Islamic bank is sustainable. So therefore, you will put money in the bank and in the Islamic bank. So it is very important for the bank to increase customers' confidence by carefully mitigating the credit risk. Okay, so the total risk, all right, for the bank, according to Sharpe capital asset pricing model, is just divided into two: systematic risk, which is external factors like the COVID, and banks' internal factors. Now, the unsystematic risk is easier to mitigate because, it is within the capacity of the banks. It is something that can be diversified. So if you're having losses in one sector, you can at least shift, to another sector. So this is, when we talk about unsystematic risk, it is banks' internal factors, and it can actually be diversified and it can be managed better. So systematic risks are external factors which cannot be diversified. So, when the analogy that we use, if we do not manage credit risk properly, we will be putting all eggs in one basket. Should anything happen to the basket, that's it, finish. So we need to be able to diversify. So we put some on stock market, we put some on property, we put some on instant access, so that if the stock market fail, we still have the property. And if the stock market and property fail, we have instant access. So it is very important for the banks to do this diversification. So again, you need, in terms of financing or lending concentration, the bank needs to focus on giving financing according to sector, according to customer type. So if the customer goes to you as a credit officer asking for a personal loan, or the customer goes to you as a credit officer for you to give, for the bank to give financing to expand the business. So you need to understand, the customer type, the sector, how to measure the rate and the geographical and other factors. So you need what is the strategy in order for us to mitigate credit risk? We need to have this diversification portfolio mix. We cannot be just giving loan to one property sector. If we concentrate or if we focus only on giving loans to property sector, what if the property market failed? So if the property market failed, of course, the bank will also not be able to sustain. So it is very important that credit risk is being looked at in a bigger picture, not just giving a loan to someone and just assessing whether he's going for bankrupt, whether he has a cash flow, but that is the bigger picture of credit risk. So, and of course, bank also will have to manage their own risk. All right, so they have to manage their risk appetite. So if it is worth for the bank to give loans to, for example, people like Irwan has as we all know, is affected by COVID-19 and he cannot even pay back to the bank. I know Dr. Desi is very, I would say very generous. Dr. Desi has chosen Irwan. All right, from the bank's perspective, I'm not sure whether that is indeed a good decision. So you need to really assess the credit risk, all right, and then be able to recommend to the bank whether should the bank give financing to either Irwan or to Aisha. So sometimes the problem doesn't come, or it's not associated with the borrowers, but it's associated with the staff. So the bank staff is inexperienced, not able to, to assess the credit risk, and they do not do the due diligence. The staff does not really check the credit, does not do proper credit assessment. So that could lead to adverse selection which does not lead to banks generating profit as a result of a non-performing loan. So you need to really understand what are the main internal factors for credit risk, because you do not want, again, to put all eggs in one basket. You want to make sure that you diversify enough so that you are able to mitigate the credit risk. This is Ayah, all right, Surah Yusof. And Yaqub said, "Oh, my sons, do not enter from one gate, but enter from different gates, and I cannot avail you against the decree of Allah at all. The decision is only for Allah. Upon him I have relied, and upon him let those who would indeed rely." So as you can see, it's very important for us to diversify. All right. So again, the risk mitigating strategy. How do we mitigate risk? Normally, banks with is what we call the early warning system. So when we go, if that person is Aisha has not been paying back the bank for the last 3 months, there will be what we call the red flag. The bank, there's a system where the bank will know, okay, Aisha is having problems, so we need to do something so that Aisha can pay back to the bank. So this is why credit rating is very important, all right, and it will also limit the credit exposure. So, and of course, a system based on judgment of experts in credit approval process. We need the experts to help the banks, or we need the experts in credit risk approval, in credit approval process. We need to also understand the borrower's conduct. And of course, we have the rating scales by the bank on predetermined factors. We need to understand whether the family, the professional background, would, someone like Dr. Dimas, who has a permanent job with the university, what is the likelihood of Dr. Dimas, not able to pay back to the bank, as opposed to someone who has a small business and business affected by COVID-19, and of course that person has a higher probability of not paying back to the bank. So we also have what we call the quantitative method. I hope I can share with you how do we do the calculations. So as you can see, Dr. Desi,
Yes.
it's almost 6 o'clock. I'm not sure whether we have the time to do that. It's 4:30 to 6, right?
Yes, I think maybe we can open the question for the audience,
Yes.
Professor.
Yes, yes.
So
I'm asking you all, what is your decision now based on this? Okay. Any questions? Yes.
any question, ladies and gentlemen? What is your decision?
Gunovi?
Yes, Mr. Saiko Gasama.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Saiko.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me the chance. Thank you, Doctor, for the wonderful presentation. This is another landmark lectures that we've learned a lot, and I think is the last lecture. So we've learned a lot. To be honest, very interesting, well detailed, and insightful. Basically, I have a couple of questions with regards to risks, credit risks, which you've explained extensively, though, I mean, the explanation is very wide and understood, but yet still I have some few questions to raise. How do you know a customer, a question which you raise, not report their real profit? This is something very crucial, and I think this is what is affecting most of their Islamic banking institutions, unlike conventional banks, whereby a predetermined rate will be given. But in this case, there is no predetermined rate, which is MUSYARAKAH, and then it will depend on the profit you made. So here you talked about the mechanisms that the banks put in place in order to track those ones. So what I see as the number one problem but here I think the problem will be faith will come to play, because if you look at Islam, everything is based on faith, iman. So if you lack that, obviously you can under-report your profit, and then you will deny the bank of what they have. And looking at the MUDHARABAH, also you talked about the asset financing, whereby if somebody want to buy an asset, bank will buy and then sell it to you. So in these two cases, these two procedures, these two techniques, which one do you think is more riskier for the banks to control? MUSYARAKAH or MUDHARABAH? I don't know, because this one, the bank will buy asset and sell it to a customer. This one, they will give you a loan, credit loan, and then will be monitoring your business based on the profit. They will know their share. Which one is more riskier? Do you understand? And then I have two questions, if you can allow me, or you can answer that one then after I come up.
Okay, a very good question. We have, I wish I could show you the sample of how does the bank, does the assessment, in a bank's balance sheet. I'll show you afterwards if we have the time. So generally, banks will normally first look at what we call the 5 C's. All right, or the 7 C's now. We have the character, capabilities, the collateral, the conditions, and capital and others. So they look at, the 5 C's first. And banks also, they have their risk tolerance level. So someone comes in with a high credit risk, but bank can tolerate that. All right. So it's not as easy as just looking at someone and I'm going to give you the loan. They have the whole procedure, which I'm going to show you afterwards. They have the, the rating, and they give weight. Afterwards, if you allow me, Dr. Desi, I'm just going to go through very briefly how banks, do the assessment. All right. So I'm just going to go back here, if I may. All right. So this is analysis of credit risk, as you can see. They do the calculation, expected credit loss. They do the calculation of probability. What is the probability of the amount or the cash flow due to the bank minus the actual money that they get from the customer? So this is the, as you can see, this is the definition by banks, whether or not it is impact financing or not impact financing. If you miss your payment once, it's not impact financing. But if you miss your payment one month, 2 months, and 3 months, that is impact financing. That means the credit risk is higher. So if banks know that if a bank knows that you are not able to pay back for 3 consecutive months, that means it affects your credit assessment. So as you can see here, look at this scenario. So the base scenario is that the Kuala Lumpur index is 1650, the remaining focus period is 1850. A bigger scenario is that banks does all this, very diligent. So the next 12 months, if the upside scenario, look, the Kuala Lumpur composite index has increased, good, right? But if the Kuala Lumpur composite index has decreased, that means this is not good. So if it is not good, that means banks better be careful whether they can tolerate or not the risk. If someone comes in, you think that this person is not going to make it, can you tolerate that risk? So a lot of things are going on at the back office for you to understand whether you are going to give loan or not. All right. And also Brother Psycho, they have also this. They do the rating, whether it is AAA, whether the loan is is a AAA, and then and what is the percentage. All this the banks will do. All right, I don't have the time to to show you all the calculations, but I will be sharing with you, Dr. Desi, all this so that the students can look at it and try to do the calculations. And I'm here if you have any questions, you can also text me, and I will be able to explain to whoever has questions. So again, as you can see, Brother Psycho, this is what the banks actually do, right? In terms of assessing or clearly assessing the credit risk. Did I answer your question, Brother Psycho?
Okay. Anyone can give some question for Professor Rosylin? This is nice presentation. And this is not my field, Professor Rosylin. My field is in regional planning, but in regional planning, we know that early warning system, that how to the city is resilience to the floods and maybe earthquake like that. So we need to do something to develop the capacity. So this is a nice knowledge for me also, how to do something to develop capacity for the society with finance Sharia.
And I like your decision, Dr. Desi, because you were looking at Iran, because that is very much maqasid. Someone who is in need of help, and you feel that as a banker you need to help, right? So and of course, if you look at Aisha has a good business. She wants to expand the business. So should you also be giving loan to to Aisha? There's always you need to balance. You need to really make a decision. You are an Islamic bank representing the faith. Should you just be focusing on profit? And should you be also, should you be focusing on maqasid? So you need to be very clear. You need to understand so that you have a balanced decision and you're being fair not only to the bank, but you're also being fair to the customer, right? And of course, we now have in Malaysia and Indonesia what we call the gig economy. The gig economy, people go online, right? So how to assess the credit risk? Because if you look at 5 Cs, you can go and ask Dr. Dimas your payslip, your bank account, how many cars you have, and things that you can assess. Dr. Dimas, you have a big bungalow, how many houses, how many cars. We need to assess your credit risk. Yeah? So That one is something that we can do. This is what banks do, right? But what if someone who has online business, who doesn't have a payslip? Sometimes it is profitable, sometimes it's not profitable. How do we go about, how do banks, Islamic banks, do this assessment? This is where big data, artificial intelligence, and blockchain come in. If you want to buy a house and you're not a worker, you do not have salary. You do not have you do not have salary slip, but you want to buy a house, not because you cannot afford it. You can afford it because you have a very, you have a very profitable online business. So how do banks actually assess this? All right, so this is the moving forward, because in Malaysia, people talk about owning homes. We are saying that those who can actually own homes are those who are able to pay back the bank. They can show proofs. But what about big data? Big data can actually do that. Big data knows which restaurant you go to, whether or not you've been spending a lot on Starbucks or others. You in Malaysia, you don't go eat roti canai or nasi lemak. You go and eat at big restaurants. So all this can be captured in big data and via artificial intelligence, where you can actually be, your credit risk can be assessed better, right? So yeah, it is very interesting. It's not just giving. There's a lot of things going on at the back office of the bank. So at the end of the day, this is what Warren Buffett said: it is better to be approximately right than precisely wrong. You want to give the loans, you do not want to be giving the wrong credit assessment to someone because you're doing an injustice to that person. So in order for you to to give loans to someone, you need to make the right decision. And it's better for you to make approximately a right decision rather than just being wrong at your assessment, right?
Okay, right.
So I think that's, yeah. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, this is any question, Professor, from Bernard Priera.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for the wonderful presentation. My question is, the event of bank bankruptcy on the bank, where the depositor is still banking with the bank, what are the mechanisms in which the customer can recover the said amount of monies that he or she deposit in the bank? Thank you for the question, Bernard.
Okay, there's a lot of things, if you defaulted payments, 3 months in a row, all right, the bank will actually contact you and ask you to pay. So in Malaysia, we also have, we call the agency credit, where you can go and ask, it's under the central bank. You can go and ask AKPK to talk to the bank on your behalf to give some flexibility in terms of the rate of payment, lower rate of payment. The AKPK will negotiate on your behalf. So it is very important for someone who is not able to pay back the bank to go and talk to the bank, and you can restructure your loan. Don't just run away, because if you run away, there will be bankruptcy charge against you, and it will be very difficult for you to get out. Studies conducted on insolvency are also focusing on the zakat element. Zakat, as you can see, the al-gharimin is one group of asnaf that can actually help in terms of helping those who are in debt. So again, that's why it is very important for us to assess the credit risk, because we want to be sure that whoever borrows from the bank, it is very important for that person to be able to pay back. So if you cannot pay back, it will be a lot of issues, not on the part of the bank but on you. So I am also of the view, this is my radical view. I am not for borrowing. How do I say this? I have to be very diplomatic about it. Banks will be very angry, because I said it's better not to borrow if you think you cannot, right? So
Yes.
yeah, this is what I also tell my children, try as much as possible, because you know, you do not just imagine if you're buying a home, you know, you put up 10% of the, you know, of the price of the loan, and 2-3 years after you have bought the house, you're not able to pay back. You will lose your down payment, your deposit, you will lose the house, right? So a lot of things need to be looked at. So it is important, right? That is where Islamic banks are coming in, and I am hoping that Islamic banks are also promoting social justice and not focusing too much on profitability.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Professor Rosylin. And then, there any comments from Rashida? I'm
Okay.
sorry, Prof. Can you share back the scenario?
Okay. Which one? The first one? But this is what I asked you right from the very beginning, right?
Yes.
So Irwan seeks financing from Muamalat to help him pay his workers. And we have scenario 2, Aisha, right? So now, if I ask you again, how many said Aisha, how many said Irwan, right? You need to understand, you know, a lot of things, you know, it's not just Aisha or Irwan. You need to understand that a lot of things that are, you know, that come to, that are associated with giving out loans to these two persons. You all answer, have you all answered on the poll everywhere, or you just prefer to, you know, unmute your mic and answer me directly?
Okay.
Could I have a question, Prof?
Yeah. Yes.
Bu Desi, may I have a question to Professor?
Yes. Yes. Please, Pak Dimas.
Thank you, Bu Desi. Actually, Professor Rosylin is my former examiners at the moment, Dr. Desi.
Oh, yes. Good.
When I was defending my PhD research, she was one of the external examiners at the moment. Very
And
critical,
I
very
was, people
detailed,
say
and
I was
so
the tough one. People say I'm always the tough
yes,
one.
yes, yes. I was so nervous at the moment because you were questioning so difficult question, Prof.
Okay.
Okay, Prof. I have just a humble
Yeah.
question, Prof. Regarding with your slide just now, you mentioned about 5 financing schemes. You mentioned about Mudharabah, MUSYARAKAH, Salam, Istiqna, and others. So, if I may confirm that the Murabah financing is standing the dominant in our financing schemes in Islamic banks, does it mean that Murabah financing has a low risk, Prof? The lowest risk? Does it mean like that?
Let's have a scenario. You are the bank. Someone goes to you and asks for financing. Okay. They want the money. You give the money. You just have to wait, and they will pay back you in installment. You go under Murabaha, fixed rate of profit. If you go under Mudharabah or Musyarakah, you will have to be involved in the business. Under Mudharabah, you are a sleeping partner, but you also there's an extra risk there, because what if the business doesn't turn out to be good, right? So there's an extra risk if you go under Mudharabah or you go under Musyarakah. So that is, I would say, the pros and cons. If you ask me personally, I would go for equity-based financing, the Musyarakah and the Mudharabah, because I think it is fairer. That forms the fundamental of Islamic banking and finance. You know, Murabah has been argued as the backdoor to riba, because, you know, it's a fixed rate profit, you know, and then with minimal risk. But if you really want to help the economy, if you really want to help the entrepreneurs, you would want to share the profits and be involved in the business in a way, and then and that will actually be more linked to the real sector of the economy than just giving out loans at a profit rate and you wait for the installments. So but banks, if I talk to the bankers, to the banks, they are also pro tawarruk or murabahah because the risk is lower, right? So again, I am propagating Islamic banks with maqasid, promoting social justice. If you look into equity-based financing, they're more linked to the real sector of the economy. Isn't it good if you can help Aisha or Irwan to prosper in the business and then create more employment? There'll be more growth, and in the end will also be helping the Islamic banking industry to sustain, and also in the end it will lead to economic growth. Isn't it better? Of course it's riskier, but there are also means and ways to mitigate risk. We have identified the risk, so I think banks need to also do more. All right, and of course now, why can't we make use of big data analytics? Why can't we make use of artificial intelligence and blockchain technology where we can also have transparency? Why can't we use this and to further assess or to give a more efficient measure of credit risk? Because again, I may be biased, but I am propagating equity-based financing because I think it is more linked to the real sector of the economy.
Thank you, Prof.
Anything else?
In detail, maybe I will discuss you personally, Prof.
Boleh, can we do a paper together? Come.
Yes, sure, Prof. This is a thing that we'll do since beginning.
Yeah, because
postponed.
we can have we we look into the big data part, big data, and maybe a conceptual model, a lot of things, because I think this is where fintech is coming in. Students, you're being quiet. Are you sleeping? I'm gonna take your pictures afterwards, okay?
Okay, I think we are very interested with your scenario models, Professor Rosylin, but this time is maybe not enough to discuss this. Maybe I want to give some conclusion for our discussion today. This lecture gave enlightenment about how credit risk is very important for the bank to manage and concern. Main causes of credit risk consist of internal versus external factors like COVID-19. I think it's external factors. And if the bank cannot assess the credit risk failure to generate profit, banks should concern on types of loan for the customers, on types and consider its risk potential. So it is also important to have IFSB as guiding principles.
Yes.
So
that good. Yeah, very nicely captured, Dr. Desi. All the main points you have captured very nicely.
Okay, maybe you can give us the maybe closing statement, Professor, before we can close this activity.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Muhammadiyah University. Thank you very much, Dr. Dimas and Dr. Desi, and all. It's been a privilege to be here and sharing this lecture with each and every one of you. You are the young scholars are our harapan, our hope. That's why we're investing our time and effort, because what we want is a group of scholars, these young scholars will be the leaders of the Muslim world So, you know, I'm hoping, I have my prayer that, you know, this group of young scholars will become responsible, you know, committed Muslim scholars that can contribute to the Ummah. You know, Dr. Dimas, I'm not that young anymore. I've got 3 more years to pension and then jaga cucu. So I'm very hopeful that the young generation will become, you know, leaders, scholarly, you know, with, you know, someone or people who can actually contribute to Islamic economics, to Islamic banking and finance that are in line with Maqasid Al-Sharia. This is my hope and my, again, my harapan.
Yes, thank you, Professor. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope today's webinar has been useful for us today. Thank you, Professor Rosylin.
Yeah, sorry, I've got the pictures taken earlier, so I'm not sure whether everyone are still here with us.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Rosylin. And I would like to thank you very much to everybody and the participants who joined this session. Thank you very much for your contribution and idea sharing. And this is the last session, IT Yields. Goodbye, everyone. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. We have succeeded to doing this activity. Thank you, Professor Rosylin. Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice meeting all of you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Dimas. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a priceless opportunity. I mean.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Dokter.
Terima kasih,
Thank you,
Prof.
Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Sehat selalu, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
My pleasure, dear. So take care, everyone, and stay safe. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Right. Okay. Bye.
Bye,
Assalamualaikum.
Professor. Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Oke, Pak Dimas. Udah ya.
Silakan, Bu. Sudah malam, Bu.